What's up guys, welcome back to yet another video, and in today's video we are going to be doing something a little bit different. Usually I don't do these types of videos because I only do them really upon a request. I did a poll on YouTube and I asked you guys in my community section what type of bait do you guys want to hear me talk about in my next video, and I haven't come out with a video here in a little bit, so I feel like we're a little overdue for that. And today's video we are going to be talking about crankbaits. That was the most voted on option, so I figured we'd do a crankbait video today. There isn't going to be any fishing in this video, just a disclaimer, because it is absolutely freezing outside. It is below zero, so we're not going to be doing any of that. But there's going to be 4 main types of crankbaits that I'm going to be covering in today's video, which meaning jerk baits, shallow diving crankbaits, otherwise known as square bill crankbaits, lipless crankbaits, and I'm going to be talking about deep diving crankbaits in this video. And basically just going to be going over what they're used for, different techniques, colors, how to fish it, best gear to throw it on. We're going to be talking about rods and reels as well. So it's going to be a very interesting video, to say the least. So starting off with probably the most common type of crankbait that I throw in most situations, well, covers a lot of different situations. Mainly your shallower water, around riprap, cover, hard cover, is mainly where this bait is going to shine. And that, of course, is the square bill crankbait. So this specific square bill crankbait right here, this is a Strike King KVD series 1.5. It is in chartreuse black back, as you can see. And to be completely honest, I'm pretty biased when it comes to this bait. I'm not sponsored by Strike King or anything, but by far probably my favorite square bill crankbait to throw. They just have a lot of amazing colors. Basically, the unique thing about a square bill, and I have an example here, right here, I have a deep diving crankbait. This is a Rapala Shad Wrap, and you can see the lip on that bait is rounded. Okay, not on a square bill, as the name suggests. It is squared off. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to allow this bait to ricochet off of cover. So let's say, for example, I'm fishing next to a marina. There's a lot of riprap, a lot of rocks, and I decide to make that long cast along those rocks, and I want to get a reaction strike out of the fish, right? I want to get a reaction strike out of that bass. I'm going to run this thing and I'm going to purposely bang it into the rocks. And when it hits the rocks, that square bill design, you might think that, you know, a crankbait like this is going to get stuck. What's actually going to happen is when this bait is going down through, that square bill, once it hits those rocks, it's going to ricochet and deflect off of hard cover. That is what makes a square bill crankbait so effective. And color option with square bills, the basis that I would recommend is you're going to be imitating some type of forage, so bait fish. This one here is in a chartreuse pattern here, really great for dirty or discolored water. I also have a few other colors in the Strike King 1.5 that I absolutely love. I got stuff like bluegill, really nice bluegill pattern here. Had a lot of really good success on this color, especially when bluegill is the main type of forage. And we also have a classic shad pattern right here. This is actually a really good little color. Really effective. Now we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. I was talking about shallow running crankbaits. Now we're going to talk about the deeper side of crankbait fishing. Now, one thing that you need to remember is, especially in the colder winter months, in the fall or later fall and really early spring, those fish, a lot of times they're in their deep water spots. They're not really feeding very much, but obviously a bass needs to eat to survive, so they will eat. But they're going to be in their deep water spots because in the winter time, when the water gets cold, a lot of times that the water towards the bottom is a lot warmer than the water on top. And a really great bait to get down to that depth is a deep diving crankbait. This one here happens to be a Rapala Shad Wrap in the mid-size. This is just a classic shad pattern right here. I got a bunch of other patterns I'm going to show you guys here in a second. And what makes this bait unique is that long lip. And I'd say that lip's about 1 inch long on there. The longer the lip, generally the deeper the dive you're gonna get on that crankbait. One thing I like about these Rapala shad wraps, and just for a disclaimer, I am not sponsored by any company that I'm talking about. I'm just telling you guys what I like. But the Rapala shad wraps are really nice because a lot of them are made out of balsa wood. I believe they're all made out of balsa wood. Well, at least a lot of their deep divers are. Not only does it make that crankbait have less noise because it's wood, so it's a lot more finesse, and I really, really like that. Plus, depending on the diameter of line you're using, you can get a deep diving crankbait down to the depth that you're gonna need. So let's say that you know, you're fishing in about 10 to 14 feet of water. Those bass are down deep on a rock point or something. They're just down deep. And let's say a square bill crankbait's a little bit too shallow. You might be able to hit them with a lipless crankbait if you let it sink a little bit. But if you want a constant action to move that bait right through the strike zone, a deep diving crankbait is one of my favorite baits to reach for that reason. And I really like these Rapala shad wraps because when they wobble, it's a very tight wobble. It's not like a square bill where it's very erratic. It's really, really quite nice. So that's a deep diving crankbait. And they are just a really, really effective bait. And even in the summertime, when the fish are, when it's really hot, a lot of times those fish will go down deep where the water is cooler. And a deep diving crankbait's a great bait to reach them. A few other colors you can get on a deep diving crankbait. Again, just like the square bill, same concept. You're going to be imitating forage, so bait fish. You know, you got perch patterns, you got shad patterns, and I even have some bluegill patterns in here. So you don't want to only have one color of one bait in your bag. You want to have a bunch of different colors at your reach. So highly recommend you guys pick up a few different colors of your favorite crankbaits. That's going to allow you to kind of have versatility on what you're trying to imitate, and it's really going to help you out. Next, we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about lipless crankbaits. Kind of in a hodgepodge here. My favorite lipless crankbait of all time has to be the Strike King Red Eye Shad. This one here is a 1/2 ounce version. This is just in a Tennessee shad pattern. Lipless crankbaits are great. I've caught fish on them all year round in a variety of techniques. They're just so versatile because they sink. Since they have a really, really nice fall rate, you can fish them a variety of depths. You can fish them up shallow, you can fish them in the middle, you can fish them on crawl them towards the bottom. And you could also, a really nice little thing you can do with lipless crankbaits that I like is that if you're fishing around, let's say hydrilla, milfoil, grass, you can rip those crankbaits, these lipless crankbaits, out of the grass. And it is a very, very effective way to catch largemouth, smallmouth, spotted, whatever bass you were trying to catch. A lipless crankbait generally has rattles in it. Almost all the time, 90% of the time, they're gonna rattle. And I'll hold the hooks down so you guys can hear this. I'm actually gonna hold it up near my mic so you can probably hear it, but you'll be able to hear the... Okay, so that's the rattles. And a lot of times these were nicknamed rattle traps because the original, I actually have one right here. The original lipless crankbait was actually called the rattle trap, and I actually have one of them right here. This is a Bill Lewis rattle trap. Kind of see there. So there's a reason they were called that. The best part about a lipless crankbait is it has a shad profile that almost is perfect in the shape of a shad. If you were to look at, let's see, pull out a jerkbait here. If I were to take this jerkbait, it's really long and cylindrical, more of like a minnow shape, okay? And I were to grab a lipless crankbait, which one do you think looks more of a shad shape? So that is the reason why lipless crankbaits are so effective. Really, really good in the springtime. right when the snow melts, at least where I'm up at in the northern western part of America, it is very, 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 very cold in the wintertime. And unless you go ice fishing, you're probably not going to be able to fish in the wintertime for most of the time. But right when that ice comes off, a lipless crankbait crushes them because of the amount of action, vibration that these things have is incredible. So I always like to keep these on hand. And again, that is the Strike King Red Eye Shad, 1/2 ounce version. And as for other colors, same thing with basically all these crankbaits. You're gonna wanna imitate bluegill, shad. One pattern that I highly recommend you guys pick up if you guys are gonna fish some lipless crankbaits this year is you pick up a crawfish pattern. This is the chili craw color in the Red Eye Shad. And for some reason, the reds in the spring and the fall are absolutely fire. They catch so many fish. I cannot emphasize how many colors of a lipless crankbait you can have. I know in my box I carry bluegill, shads, perch, herring. I have a ton of different colors that I prefer to use because that bait is so versatile. You can fish it so many depths. Now, this next bait, when it comes to depth, it's a little bit harder to kind of explain. And for that bait, that of course, for the last and final type of crankbait we're going to talk about, and that would be a jerk bait right here. This is a Rapala X-Wrap. This is the 4-inch X-Wrap. This is in a shad pattern, probably my favorite jerk bait to throw. It's a suspending jerk bait. You can also get floating jerk bait variations. You can get countdown jerk baits that sink a little farther. But basically, I like these suspending jerk baits because wherever you put a suspending jerk bait, it is going to stay there. It's a suspending jerk bait. So wherever you move it, it's going to stay in that general area. So let's say I wanted to fish at shallow 1 to 3 feet of water. Keep my rod tip up. I can keep it with rod control. I can keep it in 1 to 3 feet of water. If I wanted it to go down to, let's say, you know, depending on the line I'm using, obviously, the diameter, I can make it go down as deep or as shallow as I want, and that's what I like about a jerkbait. Most bass anglers in the bass fishing community like to fish jerkbaits more in the colder months. I found that they're effective all year round in my area, but definitely one of my most used baits in the spring and the fall. But once in a while, when that water cools up in the summertime, these baits are absolutely amazing. Again, that's the Rapala X-Wrap. That's in a shad pattern. You can also pick them up in several different bait fish patterns as well. This one here is kind of in a gold color. Great shiner imitation. And then another couple other colors you can have. These are kind of optional. This one here is a rainbow trout color because we got a lot of trout in my area and the bass love to eat the trout. But really great bait right there. All right, so for the last part of this video, I want to talk about the gear that I'm going to be throwing those 4 different types of crankbaits that I just talked about. I'm going to be throwing those on. So let's start with the rod. I like a 7-foot medium power fast action rod. Obviously on casting gear, as you can see. This rod right here is it's a Lew's American Hero Speed Stick IM6. So it's a really nice rod. As for reel, this is kind of a changer for me. So a lot of people like to fish, you know, their crankbaits on a slower gear ratio reel because it forces them to slow down. What I found is by having the versatility of a fast reel, I can choose what cadence I fish that bait at. So a higher gear ratio reel has really been a game changer for me when it comes to crankbaits. And then right here I just have a, if I can get up here without hitting the ceiling, I have a Lew's Reactor Speed Spool SLP. Really nice reel, not too expensive, but it runs really nice. And then as for line, anytime I'm fishing a crankbait, it doesn't matter what type of crankbait I'm throwing, I'm 99.9% of the time I'm throwing that on fluorocarbon line. Reason why, it sinks. You're going to be able to get it down to that depth, plus it has a thinner diameter, so I can fish the variety of depths a lot easier. And then as for pound test line, you're probably going to want to fish anywhere from 12 to 15 pound fluorocarbon. I got 14 pound fluorocarbon rigged up on this one. And this is basically my main crankbait setup. I can throw jerk baits with this. I can throw square bills, deep divers, lipless crankbaits. The only time I might switch up my rod, and I'm keeping the amount of line, so I'm keeping the same gear ratio reel, same type of line, 14 pound fluorocarbon. And I would switch that up to a medium heavy power fast action rod if I'm fishing maybe a really big deep diving crankbait, like ones that go down, you know, 10 plus foot, 14 foot, and I need that strength, that backbone of that rod. That's about the only time that I'm going to be doing that. But yeah, anyway, I think that basically about covers it. If I missed anything in this video that you guys could have found helpful, or you guys have any questions, please comment down below. I'd be happy to answer your questions and help you guys out. I'm going to be putting up another poll on YouTube very, very soon about what bait you guys want me to talk about next. And the only reason I did a crankbait video today is because it was the most voted on option. So definitely let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys want to see more videos, do not forget to subscribe. I put out new videos every week. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.